Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. Hope you guys are staying safe. So, guys, there's a debate here. I've got asked on Instagram, Imran, who's the face of boxing? Who's the biggest star, Canelo Alvarez or Anthony Joshua? It's widely regarded that both of these two guys are the guys that are the biggest stars in the sport. What do I think makes the face of boxing? Obviously, as Mayweather left, it left a void. And who's the face of boxing? Is it Canelo Alvarez? Is it Anthony Joshua? Here's my take on who I think is the face of boxing. Now, I've done my little bit of my research, and what I've seen online that Canelo Alvarez's net worth is slightly higher than Joshua's net worth. However, Joshua has been fighting not as long as Canelo Alvarez. What that suggests is that Joshua's made a lot of money in the fights that he had. Remember, Canelo's had what, 70 fights? About 60 fights, right? Whereas AJ's only had what, 20 something. So what that shows is that Joshua coming out of the Olympics, winning Olympic gold, being a heavyweight, which is a massive advantage, right, has placed him in a good position. Now, one thing we've got to take into consideration, that Joshua fights majority of his fights in the UK. He did, however, fight one fight in America, and he had one fight in Saudi. And obviously we know that, the fight in Saudi he got paid a lot of money for. That was a Ruiz rematch. Canelo Alvarez has been based just in the US. Now, I've also looked at their social media, and Joshua's social media is far bigger than Canelo's social media. And what I mean by that is Joshua on Instagram got way more followers than Canelo, and on all the other social media platforms. That to me suggests that there's been a lot of good marketing around Joshua. They're doing a very good job marketing him, and they've promoted him and they've made him a massive star. Hearn played a massive part. I do think that Canelo Alvarez and his team weren't so, I felt like he's a massive star in US, but I think Joshua's a more bigger global star. However, I think it's not like Canelo's not a star, and I just don't think Canelo's been promoted like that globally. They've just focused on the US. So a lot of his audience and a lot of the people that really watch Canelo are US based. That's not to say that Canelo's not big in the UK. All the boxing fans here in the UK know if Canelo comes here to the UK, Canelo could easily sell out 50, 60,000 stadium, no problem. If he was to fight Eubank or anyone, he could fill out 50, 60,000. No doubt about it. I reckon a Canelo Golovkin fight here could sell out 70,000, no problem. So Canelo could fill out stadiums here in the UK as well. I do think Canelo would be more relevant in this country than Joshua would be. I don't think Joshua's that big in the US at all. Even though he fought Andy Ruiz, sold out Madison Square Garden, I still don't. I think after that, he probably became a bit underrated, and maybe a lot of the Americans don't view him the same way because he got beat by Ruiz, although he avenged it in the rematch. So from what I get out there, that Joshua's not that big in America. Whereas Canelo, obviously, that's his bread and butter. But let's not forget, Canelo Alvarez, he's not fighting in his home country. Canelo Alvarez, in his own country, in Mexico, would be as big, if not bigger than Joshua. Probably bigger than Joshua. He could easily sell out 100, 150,000 seater stadiums there like that, Canelo could. But here's the thing. They make more money doing what they do in the US. They don't have to have such a big crowd to make huge money. Now, I think Anthony Joshua is at an advantage. He's in a heavyweight. Also, I feel like there's more lucrative fights in his division for him. That's going to put him on another level. What I mean by that is, I think Anthony Joshua's fight with Tyson Fury would be huge. I don't think Canelo has the dance partners, right? Because in order to make those super, super paydays, even Mayweather, you have to have a dance partner. Joshua has Wilder, he has Fury. Both those fights would be huge. And even Usyk is a star. That's no slouch of a fight. And the Joshua Usyk fight sold out in less than 24 hours, according to reports. But that's because Usyk is such a great fighter as well. You see, Joshua's got some good fighters in his division. It's not great. And I think the Ruiz rematch became bigger because of the fact that Ruiz beat him. So the rematch was huge. Otherwise, a Joshua Ruiz fight isn't that big. It's just the fact that Ruiz beat him, so the rematch became massive. But it's a difficult one because, like I said, I think Joshua has commercially, I think globally, he's bigger. However, I think he's at an advantage because he's got fighters in his division that are gonna make him are a reason why he's gonna make so big money, like Wilder and what's his name, Fury. I think he's gonna make serious money. Let's not forget, you know, when Fury fought Wilder, they were saying that those guys make like 30-40 million each in that fight. So that's a lot of money, you know, without a Joshua involved. So it's not just Joshua's making big money in the heavyweight division. Fury and Wilder, when they fought each other, made silly money as well, big money. And the reason why Joshua earned a lot of money for the rematch, which is obviously down to him, but also down to the fact that he lost the first fight and the second fight with Ruiz became massive. But that, again, is down to Joshua and how big Joshua is, of course. But it's a difficult one. It's a very difficult one to say who's the face of boxing. I would personally go Canelo. I think his net worth right now is a little bit more than Joshua. And I think here's for me when it's the face of boxing, and it's the same with Mayweather, they're the best fighters in the sport. Mayweather was the best. Canelo is the best right now. Joshua's not the best. So generally, the face of boxing has been somebody that is the best, right? They're the guys that are generally, if you look at the face of boxing previously, was Mayweather. And he was the best. And same with Canelo. I think Canelo for right now, for me, is the face of boxing. But like I said, if you're going to just go off basic, if we're going to go off commercially, in a couple years' time, Anthony Joshua is going to far overtake Canelo, I believe, because Canelo hasn't got the opponents for me. Canelo hasn't got the competition out there and the names out there where he's going to be making, you know, 100 and 150 million plus. Whereas I think Anthony Joshua's got Fury, he's got Wilder, where he's going to be making crazy money. And let's not rule out Fury, by the way. Because Fury, if he beats Joshua, he could become the face, you know, in terms of commercially. However, I will say this. I think now that Canelo Alvarez has got Eddie Hearn there, I do think Canelo Alvarez could hit higher heights and even higher heights than Joshua. Because if I'm being honest, Canelo's a better fighter than Anthony Joshua. I think there's no doubt about it. He's a better fighter. And also Canelo Alvarez, there's going to be more broadcasters that are willing to give Canelo Alvarez big money. Again, I don't think Canelo Alvarez is going to sign a huge deal with a broadcaster. You know, it didn't work out well for DAZN. So I don't see that happening. I think Canelo's going to be a free agent and he's going to work with Hearn. But nevertheless, on a fight-to-fight basis, I think Canelo Alvarez's purses are going to rise and rise. And I think the big factor for that is Eddie Hearn. Because I think Eddie Hearn is going to promote Canelo Alvarez to another level. I think Eddie Hearn's a great promoter. And I think Canelo Alvarez, for me, is a guy that he could lose, but I don't see him losing anytime soon. Whereas Joshua, it's more he could lose. You know, he isn't as dominant as someone like Canelo. You know, Canelo is the man. You know, you don't see him getting beat right now by anybody. And he just looks like he's walking through everybody. So, for me personally, I think generally the face of boxing is not just the guy that's commercially such a big star. It's generally the guy that's the best as well. You know, and if you look at like the face of boxing when Ali was fighting, he was considered the best at the time. Robinson, the best at the time. You know, Sugar Ray Leonard, he was definitely the best. You know, at the time he was the face. Mike Tyson, I wouldn't say Mike was the best, but he was one of the best at the time. Especially at the heavyweight, he was just one of the best fighters at that time. In his prime, he was just so dominant. Um, so generally, Roy Jones as well. Roy Jones was special, and Mayweather. I don't know whether the Roy Jones was ever the face of boxing, um, but Mayweather definitely. These guys I'm talking about are generally the best. So Joshua is kind of an anomaly, although commercially he's such a big star. He's not the best in the sport. However, you still have to acknowledge the fact that Joshua's on another level in terms of he's filling out stadiums left, right, and center. Now, like I said, in America, they don't have to do that because they can make, like, Mayweather didn't have the crowds that Joshua had, but yet he made more money than Joshua. So again, having big crowds doesn't necessarily mean that you're a bigger star, because Mayweather was making more money. And like I said, I think now that Canelo's with Hearn, I think Canelo's purses are gonna go through the roof as well. So I do think that Joshua has more scope in terms of going to a next level, because I think Joshua has the fighters in his division like Fury and Wilder that are I feel he's gonna make crazy money fighting those guys. I don't necessarily see, well, just because Joshua's selling out 70, 80,000. Canelo sold out 60,000 against Liam Smith. Canelo Alvarez did 70,000 with Billy Joe. Here's the thing, guys. Canelo Alvarez is not even fighting in his hometown. He's not even fighting in his home country. Imagine if Canelo Alvarez fought in Mexico like Joshua does in the UK. Canelo Alvarez would do 100,000 plus easy. But like I said, generally the Americans, they're not about filling out huge stadiums. They're more about, where they can get the most revenue, and they don't need to, with the system that they've got over there, structure that they've got over there. They don't need to do 150,000 to generate huge amount of money. They can do it in MGM. We saw Joshua fight in Saudi Arabia. That was his highest payday, and that wasn't in front of too many people, or that wasn't a huge crowd. But again, it's not always about how many people are there. The site fee and all of those other things, which, like I said, I think Joshua's got more scope. I do think Joshua will overtake Canelo from a net worth point of view. And I think that's clear to see now that Joshua's only been fighting not that long, and Canelo's been fighting for a very long time. He's been at the top for a very long time, and he's had so many more fights, but Joshua's already caught up with him. So I would agree that Joshua's probably making more money. But however, I do think Canelo Alvarez's purses are going to increase, especially towards the latter part of his career. I think let's see, out of Joshua and Canelo, who takes it to another level. Because like I said, with Joshua, there's always a question mark, because Joshua could lose. And that's the thing with Canelo. I know Canelo's going to be constant. I don't see Canelo losing right now where he's at. I think he's so dominant. Whereas Joshua, if he was to lose, the money's going to go down. I know it didn't go down with Ruiz, but if he was to lose one or two on the trot, for example, then most definitely he's going to be affected financially. So I think, again, that's the thing. That's why I say that it's still up in the air in terms of financially. But right now, the face of boxing in terms of finance and commercially and who's the best, it's Canelo. But if you're looking sole financially, there's not much in it. And like I said, in the next couple of years, if Joshua was to keep winning, that's important. He needs to keep winning. I feel Joshua will probably overtake Canelo commercially. And commercially, he's already a bigger brand. He's bigger than Canelo. Like you can see from the social media numbers, he's bigger. But that, again, could change, because now that Eddie Hearn's with Canelo's going to grow, because I think Eddie Hearn's going to look to take Canelo to territories not just in the US. I think he's going to look to take Canelo to the Middle East. I think he's going to look to bring Canelo to Europe. I think Eddie Hearn's going to have a lot of fun. If Canelo Alvarez, that's what Canelo Alvarez wants to do, and he trusts in Eddie Hearn, I believe Eddie Hearn will make Canelo Alvarez a bigger star. And like I said, Canelo Alvarez is a better fighter than Anthony Joshua. So there's a greater chance that he's going to stay undefeated from now till the end of his career than Joshua is. And if you lose fights, that's going to affect your brand. That's going to affect you commercially. That's going to affect your purses. Of course it is. If Joshua was to lose one or two on the trot, he's not going to have the same appeal, as somebody that's a winning. So I know it didn't affect the Ruiz fight, but if he had lost the Ruiz rematch, then it would have affected him. It would have affected him financially if he had lost the Ruiz rematch, because it would have been difficult. How would he have come back? He would have had to come back and rebuild. So obviously it would have affected him financially, but he won the rematch. So this is why I'm saying that there's a lot to play for in the next coming years. And I think financially, when we look at it, it's between Joshua and Canelo. And when you look at it, Joshua probably will overtake Canelo if Canelo stays where he's at, he's stagnant. But under Eddie Hearn, Canelo may grow. But it also, you have to factor in that, is Joshua going to keep winning? Let's not forget, generally the face of boxing is in their prime. They keep winning. They keep winning. You know, Joshua can't afford to have losses. Otherwise, that's going to affect his appeal, you know? So I think it's a great debate. And I think, for me personally, I think Joshua has a higher ceiling, and he's the heavyweight champ. But Canelo Alvarez, there's a lot of things that Eddie Hearn can do with Canelo Alvarez to make him even bigger. Like I said, he could take Canelo to Mexico, fill out a 130,000 seater stadium there. He could take Canelo to the Middle East, and I'm pretty sure, bring Canelo to Europe, into the UK. So there's a lot of things that Eddie Hearn can do with Canelo. Canelo, at the end of the day, is an elite fighter. He's, for me, the best in the world right now. So there's a lot you can do. And Canelo's a star. He may not be as big a brand as Joshua, but that's because of the job that Eddie Hearn and the marketing job that's been done on Anthony Joshua is taking him to another level. But Canelo, again, I don't think Canelo's had that same exposure. I think Canelo gets that same exposure, I think he'd be even bigger. Also, Anthony Joshua's done things like breaking boundaries, like having huge crowds and stuff. Canelo could have done that, but I don't think with the American-based fighters, they're not really interested in that. They're more about making as much revenue possible. And over there, they don't, having a 60, 70, 100,000, it doesn't really, they're more about generating revenue, and they can do that after site fees of like I said, Mayweather fought in the MGM majority of his career, and he made way more money than Joshua. So like I said, it doesn't come down to how many people are there. But again, it's an interesting debate. I would love to know what you guys think. Who's the biggest star? For me, right now, Canelo is the face of boxing, but Anthony Joshua is definitely a close second. And the only reason I would put Canelo ahead of Joshua, because it's not just a fight, not so much financially, because I think they're kind of even. If anything, maybe Joshua might be a little ahead, or maybe Canelo might be a little ahead. But it's more the fact that I believe Canelo's the best fighter in the world. And I think that needs to be put into context as well. When you're the best fighter in the sport, generally, if you look at the face of boxing, most of the times it's the best guys that's considered the best at that time. And we'll all agree Joshua's not the best right now. It's Canelo. So yeah, I'll leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think. Let me know let me know what your opinions are. Who do you think is the face of boxing, Canelo or Joshua? Leave your thoughts, guys. And guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.